I knew all of that before coming into this job, because I'd spent 3 decades studying this. What I did know was the vast amount of the American-Israeli relationship about which I had no idea. That in fact, the U.S.'s relationship was far deeper, more multifaceted than anything that I had conceived as a researcher, as a scholar. For example, in the field of commerce, we don't think of the U.S. and Israel as having a very close commercial relationship. In fact, our relationship is fantastically close. Israel is America's 20th largest customer in the world. Israel does more business with the United States, the United States does more business with Israel than it does with Argentina, than it does with Saudi Arabia, than it does with Russia. That Israel and the United States are engaged in cutting-edge technology and research in nanoscience, microbiology, in finding alternative sources for fuel. We're about to launch in February the Better Place project, which will transform Israel into basically a laboratory, a national laboratory for an all-inclusive electrical car system. The first country on earth to do this. And this is an American-Israeli project. Better Place has its offices in Netanya in Israel and in Silicon Valley in the United States. Completely American-Israeli project. I had no idea that this was going on. We are engaged in agricultural research, in health research, in finding cures for numerous diseases. Israel has more scientific patents, more scientific papers, more Nobel Prizes per capita than any country in the world. And it is the second most represented company on the NASDAQ exchange after the United States. All of this I learned upon becoming ambassador. Now, I also learned that we don't agree on everything all the time. We do agree, we agree on other things, but we have disagreements, particularly on specific aspects of the peace process. For example, the issue of Jerusalem comes up a lot in the press. Our disagreements of Jerusalem. These are disagreements, none of them are new. They go back, in some cases, to 1967, in some cases even before that, to 1948. The United States, to this day, continues to subscribe to that resolution adopted 63 years ago today, Resolution 181, the petition resolution, which called for the internationalization of Jerusalem. And for that reason, the United States did not recognize, West Jerusalem, my water, West Jerusalem as Israel's capital between 1948 and 1967. It didn't recognize the Jordanian annexation of Jerusalem between 1948 and 1967. And after 1967, when Israel reunified the city and declared the entire city as the capital, the United States didn't recognize that either, again, because the United States still adheres to Resolution 181. And the official American position, and again, I'm the ambassador from Israel to the United States, not the other way around, but I want to do justice to the American position. Our position is that the United States will someday alter its position on Jerusalem once there is a peace treaty between us, between Israel and the Palestinians. Our position is that Jerusalem is the undivided capital of the Jewish state, as it has been the spiritual capital of the Jewish people for 30,000 years. That Jews and Arabs have a right to live anywhere in that city, as they have a right to live anywhere in a city in the United States, in Atlanta, Georgia. And that that will be our position going into the peace talks with the Palestinians. But we understand also that Palestinians have a position on Jerusalem, which is not consonant with ours. And we understand that the Palestinians will bring those positions to the negotiating table, and they will be on the table. And in that way, the present government of Israel under Prime Minister Netanyahu is different than any other previous Israeli government. No other Israeli government has acknowledged that the Palestinians have that position and have expressed their willingness to accept, to put that position on the table in the negotiations. We have a disagreement with the administration over the settlement question. And again, this is not a new disagreement. Administrations going back to the early 1970s have taken issue with Israel's settlement policy in what is called here the West Bank, what is called in Israel, Judea, and Samaria. After the 1967 war, before 1967, those areas had been annexed by Jordan, after Israel captured these territories in 1967, the United States expressed the hope that someday the exchange of these territories would form the basis of a treaty between Israel and the Jordanians. After the signing of the Oslo Accords in 1993, the American position was more that these territories would serve as the basis of fulfilling the Palestinians' aspirations for their own state. The Palestinian state would be located in the Gaza Strip and in the West Bank. Israel's position, long-standing position, is that the areas of the West Bank, Judea and Samaria, are the homeland of the Jewish people. They're literally the cradle of the Jewish people. You look in the Bible, Haifa is not in the Bible. Tel Aviv is in the Bible, but it's not in the land of Israel, it's in Babylonia. And the areas of the West Bank, Hebron, Jericho, Bethlehem, of course, Jerusalem, are the biblical homeland of the Jewish people. They're quite literally our tribal land. And that no Jewish state so constituted as a Jewish state could tell a Jew that they can't live in their ancient homeland. You can't. And that is a right-wing government, a left-wing government, centrist, up and down. No government can say that. But what the present government of Israel has said is that we recognize that this is not only the homeland of the Jewish people, it's also the homeland of other people. It's the homeland of the Palestinian people. And we realize that if we ever to have peace between Israelis and Palestinians, we're going to have to divide this homeland. And so we've called for the creation of a Palestinian state. We agree that there should be a Palestinian state created. But it's very important to us that that Palestinian state, when it is created, that it not be able to threaten us. It not be able to threaten us in the way that, say, Gaza has threatened us after we withdrew from Gaza in 2005, or the way that southern Lebanon has threatened us after we withdrew from Lebanon in 2000. In both cases, we withdrew from those countries, in those areas, in an attempt to generate conditions that were more conducive to peace. But we didn't get peace. We got thousands of rockets fired at us. We don't want that to be replicated. So we have called for the demilitarization of the future Palestinian state. Now, on these issues, we had disagreed. The Obama administrations going back, again, to the early 1970s, have said that settlements are not productive for peace. We beg to disagree. We have disagreed. We've reached peace with the Egyptians. We've reached peace with the Jordanians, irrespective of the settlements. And we think that settlements are not the core of the conflict. The core of the conflict, of course, is whether people in the Middle East are willing to accept a sovereign Jewish state in their midst. There was a conflict between Zionism and the Arabs for 50 years before the first settlement was created. But this doesn't mean that we, the United States and Israel, disagree on all aspects of the peace. That's on the contrary. Together we are calling for this two-state solution for two people. We agree that these two states should recognize one another as the national homelands of the respective people, that Israel should be recognized as the nation state of the Jewish people, just as we will recognize the Palestinian state as the nation state of the Palestinian people. We agree that there has to be security arrangements that will ensure that this Palestinian state, if and when it comes into being, will not pose the same type of threat to Israel that Hamas in Gaza has posed to Israel or Hezbollah in Lebanon has posed to Israel. We agree that there should be direct talks between Israeli leaders and Palestinian leaders, and that ultimately the Palestinian-Israeli peace agreement should form the basis for a comprehensive peace agreement, so that all peoples in the Middle East, Israelis, Arabs, and others, can live together in permanent legitimacy and stability. And I stress that, legitimacy and stability. What I've learned as ambassador, beyond what I knew as a scholar, as an historian, is that the great litmus of any alliance is not whether the two members of that alliance agree on everything. It's how we deal with those points of disagreements between us, how we overcome them, how we discuss them with constructive and confidence and friendship and commitment to that alliance. And increasingly over my tenure, over the last year and a half, which feels like about 10 and a half years, I've seen that again and again on a weekly basis. We are confronting massively complex challenges and issues in the Middle East. Iranian nuclearization, terrorist threats, Hezbollah with 50,000 rockets pointed at our towns and cities, Hamas in Gaza. It threatens not only Israel, but also threatens Egypt and threatens the Palestinian Authority. Together, we have to grapple with all of these monumental challenges. And I've seen again and again how we've done it successfully and emerged with our friendship and our alliance more rock solid and unshakable than before. With that experience, academic, diplomatic, and personal, I'm confident that the United States and Israel will continue to remain the strongest possible allies, and that we will continue to grapple with and overcome all the challenges that are presented to us. And we can look forward to, I believe, a more stable and peaceful Middle East in the future. Thank you all.